PDFs are everywhere. Invoices, industry reports, financial documents, contracts, the list goes on. These documents hold a ton of valuable data, but actually being able to extract and work with that data can sometimes be a real challenge. So what if we could use AI to automate the whole process? In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build an automated workflow that does exactly that using Make and Anthropic. Now, most of you have probably already used AI to extract data from a PDF using tools like ChatGPT and Claude. It's quite common practice these days. However, that still requires you manually uploading documents, typing out a prompt, and then copying the results. Today, I'll walk you through how to build an AI-driven system that automates the entire process, cutting out all the manual steps and letting you focus on the higher value tasks. So the reason why this video came about, a month ago, the team at Anthropic announced a major update to their API, announcing that they now support PDF as an input alongside a prompt to their Claude model. Now, we could already do this in Make using some custom API calls, but it was a little bit technical. But just recently, the team at Make have now updated their Anthropic app and now supports this natively out of the box. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Jan. I'm one of the co-founders of 9X. At 9X, we train business professionals like you in AI and automation. And on this channel, we regularly release these AI and automation tutorials. So if you haven't yet, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. But for now, let's dive into the tutorial. So in most cases, whenever you're doing this sort of automated AI PDF analysis, your workflow that you build will follow this very simple structure. So we need to get started by actually getting that PDF that we want the AI to analyze. So this could be a PDF attached to an email. It could be a PDF hosted at a certain file URL, or it could be a PDF stored in a file management system like Google Drive or Dropbox. Once we have the PDF, what we actually need to do is download the file and bring the data of the PDF into our Make scenario, so that then in the third step, we can have AI analyze the PDF. And then lastly, we need to store or send the data somewhere, the data that we've extracted from that PDF. And now for this example, I'm actually going to use an invoice PDF, and we're going to extract the key data points from that invoice. I'm going to be using the Google Drive app in Make to first get the PDF and then also download the file. We'll then use the Anthropic app and use the prompting a Claude module to actually run the AI analysis. And then lastly, we're going to store the data in a Google Sheet. All right, so let's now get into building this one out in Make. So I've got a new scenario ready to go. Let me get started by giving this scenario a name. So I'll just call this one AI PDF Invoice Extractor. And as I mentioned, the first thing we need to do is basically get that PDF. And in our case, what we're going to do in this workflow is use Google Drive. So I actually have a Google Drive folder set up. So I've got here an invoices folder. And what I want is whenever a new invoice PDF gets added to this folder, my scenario is then going to run, and basically we can process the data inside this PDF. So in Make, the way we do that is I'm going to add here a Google Drive. So we can just search for Google Drive. And what I want to listen to is watch files in a folder. So this one will trigger when a file is created or modified in a selected folder. And now we already have a bunch of Google Drive connections set up, but just to show you how easy it is in Make to set up these connections, I'm actually going to add a new one, and I'll call this one AI PDF Demo Jan, so I know I can remove it afterwards. And all I need to do is sign in with the same Google account that I'm using that's connected to my Google Drive, basically. So I'll sign in with Google and give it a second. It might sometimes show you this error message at the start, but we can see then we get redirected to the sign in with Google. And so what I'm doing here is basically giving Make permission to access my Google Drive. So I can just allow this one, and then we should land back inside our Make scenario. And now we can see that that connection is verified. And now we can go ahead and set up which folder do we actually want to listen to. And that is this folder here. So I have an invoices folder inside a demo folder. So back over in Make, it's going to be in my drive. If you're using a shared drive or using a folder that's been shared with you, you might need to select something different here. In my case, it's going to be my drive. And now I need to start searching. So I can see that there was this demo folder, and then it should be invoices. Here we go. What we have a couple of options here is like, what files do we want to watch? These are meant for more like Google specific document types. So in our case, we want to watch all to make sure we're catching every PDF. And I'm just going to up the limit to 10 in case if at one point I drop like 10 PDFs in there at once, we know the next time it runs all 10 will process. You can change this limit pretty much to whatever you want. So now what we can do is, because this one is known as a polling trigger, so it means that instead of it's not going to run instantly, when we turn this on, we can set a schedule at how often this should basically check that folder for new updates. And the very first time you run it, imagine if there were already a bunch of invoice PDFs in that folder. I could here simply say how I want to run this from all time, and the first time you run it, all of those documents will be in there. But in my case, I can just hit from now on. And now we need to test this one out. So I'm going to run this module, but before I do, I need to add an invoice to that folder. So I'll head back over to Google Drive, and let me now upload a new invoice. And then I can just select basically a sample invoice that I've found online, and I will share a link to this invoice also in the written tutorial. So you can definitely use this one when you're testing as well. So here, let me just upload this invoice. Perfect. So now I can go back and run my make scenario. So let me just run this module. And now you can see that it has basically found that sample invoice. We have a file ID, the ID of the file in the Google Drive. And I guess we'll have a bunch of links also where we can like view the document or even download it, but we don't actually have the data of the file. So the next step, what we need to add in here is again, a Google Drive action, and it's going to be download a file. And what this one will do is, as I said at the start, is this is going to bring the data into the make scenario. And this is what we're going to be then sending into the Claude, the Anthropic step for the AI to analyze. So here, whenever we download a file, basically the only thing you need to map is a file ID. And what I can do is simply map that to the file from the step before. And now we can go ahead and set up our AI step. So for that, I'm going to add an Anthropic Claude action. And all we need to do here is create a prompt. Thankfully, now that the team of Make have basically integrated this new feature natively, previously we always needed to use the API call when we were doing this PDF analysis and set up our custom headers and create a JSON. Now it's basically super smooth. You'll see now I just need to create a prompt. And the model that we're going to do, before that, actually, let me also go and set up again my connection for Anthropics for anyone doing this for the first time. So I'm going to add a new connection. And now it's a bit different than connecting with Google. We don't do this sort of like sign in with Anthropic. Rather, we need to provide Make with an API key. So I'll give this connection a name, and I'll call this one AI PDF demo key. And now what we need to head is to our Anthropic account. So here we just need to go to console.anthropic.com. I actually just go to the homepage so you see how to navigate to the API keys. So when you've created your Anthropic account, this is basically the homepage of your developer console. And what we simply need to do is click on Get API Keys. And now I can create a new key for this example. So I'm just going to call this one Demo PDF Analysis. And so I know to delete it afterwards so that none of you steal my precious API key. I'm just selecting the default workspace and hitting add. And here we have the API key that we now need to copy over and add to our Make scenario to confirm the connection. So heading back in Make, I'll just drop in that API key. We can see that it's the same one there and hit save. And now Make is going to basically verify that that key is correct. So it's just doing a little bit of verification. And we can see the connection has been confirmed now. Now for doing this PDF analysis, currently the only model that supports it is 3.5 Sonnet, which is a very powerful model from Anthropic. So I just need to select this one. And the max tokens, I'm just going to select the maximum amount, which is 8,000. It should be more than enough for any analysis that you do. And now what we need to do to set up, configure this like AI analysis step is we need to add a message. And you can think about messages as like individual prompts that you're sending to Claude or how you would to ChatGPT. So I'm going to add a new message. And whenever we send a message, we need to say who's the message coming from, because basically what you can do when using these AI models via API, you could, for instance, send a chain of messages. And here we have different roles. So user is basically always going to be you or me, the person basically giving a prompt to an LLM, and the assistant is going to be the LLM responding back. So if we wanted to like send with it a conversation that was previously had, we could send a combination of assistant and user messages. But in my case, I'm just going to select user. And now for every message that we send, we can also select types of content. And so the first type of content that I'm going to add here is the PDF document. And now this is this recent addition from Make to support this natively. We can just select PDF document. And what's really cool, you'll see here that it's basically telling us that only the 3.5 Sonnet models are the ones supporting this. But what's great is it has automatically detected that file that we downloaded in the previous Google Drive download a file step and has mapped it. So now our PDF is basically attached to the prompt. The last thing we need to do is give the instructions. So give our prompt what we want Claude to actually do with this PDF. And so this time I'm just going to add new content to the same message. So we're just sending one message with the PDF. And now we're also giving some text instructions. And I have a prompt already prepared, and we can go and take a look at that one now. So this is a very long, well-structured prompt. We actually used the Anthropic prompt generator. I might make a separate video on that one. It's a really useful tool to help me generate quite good prompts for these automated workflows. Just a quick break from the video to let you know that in the description below, you will find a link to our website where we've actually published this tutorial as a fully written guide. You'll find a step-by-step breakdown of how you can build this for yourself in Make. And we also have listed all the prompts and the pattern codes that you can easily copy to build this for yourself. But basically what it's doing, the first part of the prompt is giving the assistant a task. So saying you're an AI assistant specialized in extracting and analyzing information from invoice PDFs. Then we're going to tell it that a PDF will be attached with this prompt, and its goal is to extract the following information. So here we've identified like some things that will be on the majority of invoices we receive. We'll have an invoice sender, so that's going to be the company that issued the invoice. We're going to have their address, a due date of the invoice number, an amount due, and the currency. I now am giving Claude specific instructions on how I want it to do this data extraction. And lastly here, what I'm doing is telling it what format should it output its response in. And in our case, what we're doing is we're using these XML tags. So this is another recommendation from the team at Anthropic, and I'll leave a link to this article below about like why they think using these XML tags are best practices. But basically what it enables us to do is give the LLM very clear instructions on how we want the data outputted. And also as an additional benefit, it then makes it very easy to extract the individual elements later in the separate steps of our automation. So here what I'm doing is I'm saying you should return your final analysis with this invoice analysis tag. And then you're going to put the sender between the sender tags, the sender address between these tags, and so on, all those data points that we want to extract. Let me just go and copy this one over, and we can test it now in action. So back in Make, I'm just going to drop this long prompt into the text box here. So we have, again, to reiterate, we're giving the LLM the PDF, and then also giving it our text prompt in one step. And so that's all I need to do. I'm going to hit OK and save. Sometimes it's giving a little error here that there's some values missing. You might just need to go in and hit OK again and then hit save. We can see now that has worked. So for me to test this one, since if I just run this now, there wouldn't be a new invoice added to my Google Drive folder. What I can simply do is right click on this one, and then I can select here, choose where to start. And what this will do is it will bring back those initial settings we got when we set up this module, is from when do we want to actually start listening to files. And so now here I can just say all time. And if I run this again, that invoice that I previously added should be picked up once again. So we can see that the invoice was found, it downloaded the file, and now we're basically sending this to Claude, and Claude is currently analyzing this. And we can see now, just like that, we already have the response. So let's go and take a look. So open up the text response here, and we can see it has basically followed that structure that we gave in our prompt. So what I didn't point out at the start is we also asked it to explain its extraction process. If I go back to my prompt here, so before providing your final analysis, wrap your analysis inside extraction process tags. In this analysis, these are the things that I want to do. So this is a great trick to give basically the LLM an area where it can just share its thoughts. So here it's like, hey, I did this awesome thing. These are the different steps I took. But then lastly, we have this clean analysis where you can see it was successfully able to identify all these fields from the PDF. Let's go and take a look at that PDF, and just to make sure this didn't hallucinate. So we see here the total amount should be 453 euros and 53 cents. If I go back to my Google Drive and open this one up, let me just view this here. You can see here that the total amount, 453 euros and 53 cents, that's bang on. Let's compare maybe the invoice number here. And we can see that that invoice number is also correct. And all of these points, it's actually done a very good job at extracting it. So now we can move on to the last step of that automated flow. And remember what we said is now we need to basically store or send this data somewhere. And in our case, what I want to do is I want to log all these data points to a Google Sheet. And I've actually prepared a Google Sheet already. I've named it the invoice tracker. And so here you have all those columns that we're extracting from the PDF. So imagine like how useful this would be for like a finance team, where you can just have the different team members drop any invoices they receive into a Google Drive. Automatically, they'll be logged here in this Google Sheet, and that maybe the finance team could add like an extra column to say, hey, that I've processed this, or this has already been sent to the accountant. And I even want to additionally drop a link here to that invoice in our Google Drive. So the one problem that we have right now is in Make, this is basically just given us one long text response. So if I was just dump this text response into Google Drive, it wouldn't be very useful. What we want to do is actually access each individual data point separately. And Make actually gives us a very useful tool to do this. I really hope in the future, so for anyone from Make listening, what would be amazing is in this Anthropic step, if we had some additional options to maybe just say, hey, I'm formatting this as an XML, and if you could automatically, let's say, extract the individual XML tags here and have them as separate parameters, that would be very, very useful. But until that happens, we could of course do some more AI steps where maybe we're asking an AI model to convert this XML into a JSON, which Make can read. But one very useful thing we can already do is we can use this little tool down here called Text Parser. And what I want to use is the Match a Pattern module. So I can just delete this module that I added incorrectly here. And so what this module allows us to do is use something known as regular expression, or regex for short. And what regex is very good at is you basically give a pattern and it's able to search a very long string to see if anything matches that pattern and then extract just the data that we want. Now don't worry, you don't need to be a regex expert because I have the pattern for you, and I will leave the examples of the pattern in the description. You'll also be able to see this in the fully written tutorial. So what this pattern will do will basically be able to extract data from any of these XML tags that we have. So I'm going to drop my pattern in here, and now I'll walk you through exactly how this works. So here I have the pattern for extracting that first XML key that we received, that basically the Claude step is going to spit out. You can see here our whole invoice analysis is wrapped in this invoice analysis tag. And then for the company which issued the invoice, they are here in this sender tag. And so what this little pattern is going to do is it's basically going to extract all the information in between these sender tags. And the only thing I need to do here is drop in the pattern and then also say which text do I want to search and extract this pattern from. So let me go and do this one now. What we can easily do, I'm actually just going to take the whole text response here so we can run a couple of tests and just manually copy paste this. If I run this text pattern module by itself, it's going to ask for what text response it should analyze. So I can just paste that very long text string in here. And you can see now it's successfully been able to extract just the company name from that long string. So we had, this was what it was tasked to analyze, and this was the pattern that it was extracting. Now, whenever you're using these transformers, Make's going to give you this little error saying a transformer should not be the last module, because obviously, as I said, eventually we want to store this in a Google Sheet, so that will be the last module. So you can just ignore this one while you're building this out. One important thing, because we will need to basically use one pattern match module for each bit of data that we want to extract. So a very good habit is actually naming these. So this one's going to be the sender. And then what we can easily do is right click on this module and clone it. And if I drop this one in, and now I can basically adapt this to be the second data point that we want to extract, and that was sender address. And again, what I'm going to do is rename this so that it's nice and clean. So this is the sender address. And basically we'll just go on. I think there's like 5 or 6 data points that we want to extract. Another very useful feature in Make, so I actually have already in another scenario mapped all these out. So I'm just going to go over there and copy them and paste them in, but I'll show you how that works. So this is that other scenario where I already have all of these pattern extraction steps set up. So all I can simply do is hit Shift on my keyboard and then drag a square across these, and then hit Command C on Mac, or I guess Control C on Windows to copy these modules. And then if I go back to this scenario that I'm building, I can simply hit paste and drop these ones in. I need to allow that Make can use my clipboard. And now I just want to make sure that these have been successfully mapped. So you'll see that text response in my other scenario. Maybe the step was a little bit different. So all I need to do now is go through and map these different text responses. So I'll do that quickly and then speed up the scenario. Awesome. So all of this is now set up. Before I map this to Google Sheets, I want to run one more test to make sure that all these data points are successfully being extracted. So again, I'm going to right click on this first Google Drive module and choose where to start. I'm going to run this for all time and save anyway, run once, run anyway. Awesome. So that was very quick. AI did its analysis and now all of these steps. Let's go back and take a look. So we can see here the sender was successful. We got the sender address, the invoice due date, the invoice number, the total amount, and the currency, all extracted perfectly. So now we're ready to go and save this data to Google Sheets. So all I need to do here is drop in a Google Sheets module. And the action that I'm going to do is add a row. So whenever a new invoice comes into our Google Drive, AI is going to process this, extract the data, and then log this in a new row in our Google Sheet. So I can just hit add a row, and let me again make a new connection for you. So I'll do demo PDF analysis. Awesome, so my Google Drive or Google Sheets now account is connected. Again, this is living in my drive, but again, if it's a Google Sheet that's maybe shared, you might need to select different options here. I'm gonna use the method search by path, and what this means is I can just click on this little button to search the file. What Make's gonna do is actually gonna look in your Google Sheets for all files you have access to. So the name of my file was invoice tracker, and so I can just select this one there. And now what we need to do is basically tell Google Sheets which sheet, imagine if your Google Sheet had multiple tabs. In our case, this only has one, so it's going to be sheet 1. And then what Make's going to do is it's going to take a look at that Google Sheet, and you can see it's automatically identified what are the different column headers in our Google Sheet. So very cool, making it very easy to map the different data points that we extracted to the right column in our Google Sheet. So now I can just go through, and because we did the action of naming all of these pattern steps very meticulously, it's going to make mapping very easy. So first I want to map it to this $1 symbol from the sender step. I can do it for the sender address, the invoice number, invoice due date, the total amount, the currency. And now for this invoice link, this is going to be the link to where the invoice currently is in our Google Drive. So I can go back to my very first Google Drive step, and this is where we're watching files in a folder. And I believe if I just search for a link up here, it might make it a little bit easier. So here we have the watch files in the folder, and I think the one we want is the web view link. And so I can just hit OK. And now let me run this whole thing one more time and seeing if we're successfully logging this in our Google Sheet. Again, I need to choose where to start, all time, and run this once. Awesome, so that just ran. We didn't get an error from our Google Sheet. So let's go take a look at the sheet and see if that data successfully made it there. And here we go, super cool. We now have all those data points, each in their own column, well formatted. And what I can even do is go and click on the link of the invoice, and you can see it's even giving a preview there. So this is a super powerful system to set up. If you're an individual business owner, or if you're in the finance team, as I said, you can just have AI process your invoices, give you all the key information you need. You'll know when you need to pay them, and then you can go and add to this Google Sheet to give some single selects to say, hey, this invoice has been processed, this one's been paid. A very, very useful tool to set up. All that's left to do is go back into our make scenario and actually turn this scenario on. So if I toggle this one, you can see right now what it's going to do is this one will check every 15 minutes for a new invoice in that folder. If invoicing is not something that's like, let's say, so time sensitive or critical, what you could choose to do is maybe change this one to every day, and maybe we run this one at 7 a.m. in the morning, probably before most people get to the office. So we know that any invoice from the previous day has now been processed and added to my Google Sheet. And I can simply activate this scenario, which means now this same time tomorrow, this scenario will run, check that folder for any new invoices. Anthropic is gonna go and do its thing, have AI read that invoice, extract all the data points and save it to our Google Sheet. So now that we've seen that Anthropic and Claude are already doing an amazing job of being able to extract data from an invoice PDF, I really want to see how far we can push this. Like, invoice PDFs are pretty straightforward. They're mainly just text elements for the AI to read. But what happens if we wanted to analyze a more complex PDF? So I had the idea. What I did is I basically exported the slides from a recent webinar that Alex and I gave on AI for go-to-market teams. And you can see here, it's basically a combination of different slides with both text and visual illustrations. And let's see how the AI goes in a similar workflow of being able to make some sort of sense about the data inside this PDF. So I've had a similar make scenario set up. I'm not worrying about storing the data anywhere yet. I purely want to use it just for testing. So all I've had to do here is, in the first step, is I'm just looking at a different Google Drive folder. So here it's looking at webinar slides. I added the PDF of those slides to the folder, ran and downloaded. And in the Anthropic step, all I had to do was change the prompt. And so it's again, using like quite a well-structured written prompt here. I'm just saying you're tasked with analyzing a PDF export of webinar presentation slides to identify the top 3 slides that could be worth sharing as a LinkedIn post. So imagine if we were collecting slides, either slides that we were creating or from different inspiration we've seen in the internet. We could basically be adding them all to a Google Drive and having AI suggest things we could post on LinkedIn based off the content of the slides. And so here I'm giving it the instructions and then asked it for each slide, I want you to tell me the slide number that you think is inspiring and could be used as a post. What's actually the slide about? And then lastly, why do you think it's appealing from a visual point of view? And also explain the reasoning as why you think it would resonate on LinkedIn. So let's take a look at the results. This one is actually already run. So I can hear, I'll make this one a little bit bigger for us to take a look at. So we can see pretty amazingly, the AI has also been able to identify, it's found its top 3 slides, giving me the slide number. So for instance, here it's number 1, it says is page 38. This slide is about the 4 core Gen AI use cases, showcasing generate, summarize, extract, and classify. Why does it think it's visually appealing? It's because it has a clean, organized layout with icons and clear categorization, and it should perform well on LinkedIn because it provides immediate practical value, is easily digestible, and helps professionals understand concrete applications of AI. Let's make sure that the AI wasn't completely hallucinating here. So I'm going to go back and check my export of those slides. We'll go down to slide number 38, and wow, we can see it absolutely nailed it. So here it is, the 4 core Gen AI use cases. I'm going to line this one up as my next LinkedIn post. So now we can see really that basically Claude is able to understand not only the text components inside PDFs, but also the visual components. This is super, super powerful. So that's it for this video. I really hope you found this tutorial useful. Please let me know in the comments below how you're planning to use this sort of PDF AI analysis for yourself, what ideas, what use cases you have. I'd be super interested to find out. If you did find it useful, it would mean a lot if you could give this video a thumbs up. And as I said earlier, please subscribe to our channel. It really does mean a lot. Until next time, happy automating.